Globalization and the Indian economy. Today we are going to discuss about what is globalization and what was the impact of globalization on the Indian economy. Just to understand this one, let's go for a brief introduction. The globalization, let us keep the word aside. Earlier in the Indian roads, we all know that before 1990s, even the Prime Minister, the President or the Chief Minister, governors all used to use the car, the official car was ambassador. The ambassador was considered as the most privilegious and the luxurious car which is being followed for providing comforts for the topmost leaders of India. Even the private privileged classes people also use the ambassador cars, or some people used to use the Fiat cars. But today, if you observe the Indian roads, you find various varieties of brands of cars starting from Rolls-Royce, Land Rover, Mercedes-Benz, Toyota, Hyundai. All these cars were manufactured away from India, but still they are used on the Indian roads. From this point, we can understand that prior to 1990s, we have only the Indian products coming into the Indian markets. But once in 1991, the Indian rationalization or liberalization policy has come into the Indian economic reforms. Under the able leadership of P.V. Narasimha Rao, the then Prime Minister, and the then Finance Minister, Mr. Manmohan Singh, took up the great initiative to introduce changes of liberalization policy in the Indian economy. So, after 1991, India has seen a rapid changes, transformation of the day-to-day lifestyle of the people, availability of large international products in the Indian markets, and also large varieties of products, large companies have stepped into Indian land. So these all have brought rapid changes in the lives of the people and also in the market of India. It's not that only the abroad markets have come into our country, only the far good companies have come into our country. Even Indian products have reached to various corners of the world. Today, Indian products are also valid all over the world. Indian market has reached to various corners of the world. Today, India is able to do exports and imports with the far east of Japan, the same in the far west of Brazil. So, there is no boundaries for India's imports as well as for India's exports. So, the globalization concept is nothing but liberalization and making the products more and more available and making your market to a wide range where you can reach to large number of people. At the same time, you will be in competition with large number of people. You can sell your product to millions of people across the world. In the same way, you get competition from hundreds of the companies which are located at various corners of the world. So, globalization improves the standard of living. Globalization adds market space for you. Globalization also adds competition for your product. So, did globalization benefit the Indians? Did globalization bring any advantages to the Indian people? How did it affected the Indians' lifestyle? How did it affect the standard of living of the Indian people? In this chapter, we are going to discuss about all these questions and try to find out the possible answers for this. Now, let us see how an MNC works. What are the criteria to have an MNC? Let us discuss now. Earlier, before the 19th century arrival, before we were under the rule of the Britishers. So when we were ruled under the Britishers, under the colonial India, British colonial Raj or British Raj, during that period also we used to have trade relations with the other countries. the products are exported from India to the other corners. What are the products that are exported during that period are basically the raw materials, the raw cotton, the raw coal, the raw shipment, the equipment of wood, iron, everything was exported from India to the other countries, especially to Britain. The raw products are exported. The food stuff, which is only to a limited distance, has been exported. And the finished products, whatever the finished products are there, that are to be exported in the earlier days. But today, the products are exported from one corner to another corner of the world by the MNCs. First of all, what is an MNC? MNC stands for multinational company. What is a multinational company? MNC stands for multinational company. What is a multinational company? A multinational company is a company which owns its assets, its properties, and run its businesses in more than one country is called as multinational country. By the name itself, we can understand that it holds or it runs business in more than one country. That's why it is a multinational country. Multi-nations, it has spread over in various countries. That's why it is called multinational company. The company which has its transactions done in various countries is called MNC. This MNC, why do they spread their activities at various corners? The MNC spread their activities at various corners. The prime motto of them is to reduce the cost of production. They want to earn huge profits. In order to earn huge profits, they first of all try to locate the places at which they can get the raw materials at very less available cost. After getting the raw materials at very less cost, from where we can get the designers at very less cost to design the product, who can make the designed product at very less cost for us. After the designed product is done, then who can do the assembling of the designed products at very less available cost, and finally who can provide the customer services for us. All these things are the basic criteria which are used by the MNC to spread its activities in various countries. Let us see with an example for this. For example, if you take a car company which is doing its products all over the world, but the designing of the work, the design of the car is done in United States of America, where the first step of the work will be done. After the designing of the work is done in the United States of America, second one is the designed parts are manufactured in China. This is in North America, while this is in Asia. From here, the manufactured products are shipped, are transported from there to Mexico or to the Eastern European countries, which is a combination of again North America plus Europe. After the design is done, the manufacturing of the products is done, and then they ship it to the countries of Mexico or the Eastern European countries. Then the product is sold globally, and after the product is sent to the market, in order to support the customer through their advices and to rectify their complaints, they have set up customer care centers in Asia, that is in India. So a company which want to make a car is actually getting its design done in USA, where the most skilled engineers are present, and these people use their technological knowledge to do the work in a very skillful way than any other part in the world. So the designing work is done by the engineers of US or the engineers who settled in United States, that is in North American continent. Afterwards, we all know that the most cheap or the less cost goods are manufactured in China. So the people of USA send the designs to China to manufacture the products which are designed by the US engineers. After the product is manufactured at the less available cost, these less available cost products are again shipped. Shipping is the cheapest means of transport to send large amount of goods. So then the ship will take these products to Mexico or Eastern European countries, where the assembling of the parts is done at very less cost. So designing is done at somewhere, manufacturing of the raw products is done somewhere, and assembling is done somewhere, and these are sold globally in the global international market. Once they are started to be sold, if any complaints are there, if any requests are there from the customers, that has to be rectified. So they need some customer support. So in order to provide customer support, they need customer care centers. The customer care centers are established in India, where in India you have 50 to 60% of the young youth who can speak very good English, and they started to take them into employment and provide opportunities at very less cost by setting up the customer care centers in India. So any product which has to be designed was designed in US, manufactured less cost in China, then assembling less cost in Europe and Mexican parts, and customer care available in India. So a company which is called an MNC is actually utilizing 4 countries' resources at the less affordable cost and try to make immense profit from that one. This activity of any company is called as multinational company, and the spreading of the work or division of the work on the parts basis is called globalization. Earlier, if you want to buy any product, you need to design it and it was manufactured in the same country, which was a very costly affair. But with the rapid development, industrialization, and the spread of globalization, the movement of the people from one corner to another corner was made very easy with the globalization. So the movement of the products also became very easy. That's the reason why a company is able to manufacture its products, and it's not only maintaining the international standard, but it is able to acquire huge profits and also create a global mark of its product. That is how the production across the countries happen. Now let us see how the interlinking of the products is done through across the countries. How the production which is happening at various corners of the world is being interlinked. Who is interlinking the production across the world? How does the interlinking happens? What is the link that connects all the production across the world? How can the production be spread at various corners and brought at one umbrella, and how can it be sold across? So let us try to find out the answer for this one. We already discussed about the MNC. MNC is a company which has its activities run across more than one country, and its production is truly profit motive. Now, where does an MNC try to establish? MNCs will try to establish their companies wherever there is a possibility of increase of production, wherever there is availability of very less cost for the skilled and the unskilled labor is being kept, then where they also look at the government policies of that particular country, whether they are getting more benefits from the government, whether they get the land at very less cost, whether they get the facilities at very less cost or not. After scrutinizing all these, the MNCs will decide and then try to establish a factory or a company there. So the basic criteria for the establishment of an MNC is whether production is possible there or not, whether the availability of the raw materials is available or not, What about the people who work there? Whether they are skilled or unskilled labor, what would be their wages? And the third determining factor is the government policies. How is the government policy taking over? What would be the benefits that will be fetching them if they establish a factory there or a company there? So after having a thorough study of all these aspects, then they do their investments. After having a thorough study of all these aspects, and then they decide to do investment. The private companies or the MNCs try to do the investment only and only with the motto of earning profits. So the investment, whatever it is made by the company, when it is made outside the country, that is called foreign investment. For example, a company which is having its head office at London, if it puts its investment in a country like India or at Gujarat or any corner of India, then it is a foreign investment for India. In the same way, it is a foreign investment for the British people also, because they are sending their input to here. They are sending their finance to here. So in this way, their main motto is to earn huge profit. Afterwards, they generally, sometimes most of the companies do not enter directly without any base. Initially, they need some base. So sometimes they would like to go with the local companies. For example, if they want to establish something, they would try to make a deal with the local companies. When the big malls have come in India, the companies which are in US have made tied up with the Indian companies and established through the Foreign Direct Investment Act, FDI Acts, they have set up the malls. In the same way, instead of coming from a new place and establishing a new market, it would be better to have a understanding or partnership between the local company and the international company. For the local company also, it would be added, because the high-end technology and the new methods will be learned by these people, and they bring in the extraordinary benefits for the local company. So they would also like to go with the joint projects with the local companies, or sometimes they buy the local company and then take over that one. The good example for this is the Cargill Foods, a very famous company in US. This has taken over the company of Parak Foods. The Parak Food owns nearly 4 oil refineries, and every day they are able to spend 6,500 pouches of oil to every corner of India, and it is standing in the #1 place in the edible oil production. So when the Cargill company has taken over the company ownership of Parak Foods, then they are able to become the #1 oil producing company in India, because the actual place was Parak Foods. Now the Parak Foods administration and ownership has been transformed to Cargill Foods. So now the #1 oil producing company in India is Cargill Foods. Sometimes the MNCs also do like this. Either they go with the joint ventures, or they take over the local companies and try to establish their brand locally there. That's how they try to do. Why these local companies are being taken over by the MNCs? Because MNCs have immense wealth with them. Sometimes the companies own huge profits or huge budget, which is more than some of the developing countries. A company can have more money where a country does not have that much money. That is the situation with regards to some countries. And in the same way, when these MNCs are working, they also know the technique of how to make their works done at very less cost. In the previous part of the lesson, we discussed how the manufacturing of a car has been made at very, very less affordable cost, starting from designing, getting the manufacturing of the products at China, and then making it assembled in Mexico and in the Eastern Europe, and finally getting it done with the customer service support from the Indian call centers. So all these things are the best way to utilize the manpower around the world at very less cost. So now the MNCs will try to place the orders to the small and the medium people, those who are searching for jobs, or those who have the capacity to produce something what they need, they give them a set of guidelines and instructions which they have to follow with a clear cut of deadline demarcation for them and make them to continue with that one. And these people will be able to manage very clearly with the crystal clear policies with the exact time notations for them, and making the local producers or the small brand producers to make their products at the stipulated time. And after the product is done, these all are brought under the company's umbrella, where company will start to put its brand name and still rectify it if any works are being done, and then puts it at the high cost, where company decides what is the cost of the product, and then it promotes it to the worldwide with the brand name of the company. But in actual terms, it is manufactured at various corners by the small producers. So these small producers are brought under one umbrella by the MNCs by distributing the work for them with the stipulated time basis, by providing them certain resources. So this interlinking is happening when the production is done through the MNCs. So production is being widely dispersed for getting the work done. After the work is done, again they are brought into interlinked by the MNCs. That's how the interlinking products across the countries happen. Now let us see an example where a international company has set up a joint collaboration with the local company or the national company. Example, Ford. We all know that Ford is an MNC which has its branches in 26 countries. It does its sales of the cars and everything. It came into India to establish a joint project with the Indian company Mahindra and Mahindra in 1995 with a joint venture of 1700 crores at Chennai. Their main motto is to produce jeeps and cars from this production factory. In this, by 2004, the company is able to produce 27,000 jeeps and cars per annum from our country. Out of these, 24,000 cars are sold in South Africa, in Mexico and in Brazil and in various other corners of the world, which are actually produced in India by the Indian workers, by the Indian skilled labor. But these are sold internationally on the name of a brand of Ford, where Indians did not know what is a brand of Ford. Indians' talent is being converted into the brand name of the Ford vehicle in the countries like West America or in the Southern American continent or in the African continent. So that's how the large MNC companies also would try to grab the profit by having joint ventures with the local companies and try to utilize as best as it possible, produce the global products at very less cost and sell them internationally to earn huge profits. So MNC is a company which starts with the intention of where the production is at very less cost, where there is availability of skilled and the unskilled labor at very less cost, where the government policies are large beneficial to the company, and then they do the foreign investment with the prime motto of earning huge profits. Later, if they are not able to come in directly, they would also adopt an approach of joint venture approach, or they take over some of the companies and then step into the market to create their own market. These MNCs have larger budget, sometimes greater than some of the developing countries in the world. They place the orders to the small producers and make them to fix or finish it in the timeline process, and then they intermingle the product, they put their brand name and then sell it across the world. So this production intermingling was first wide dispersed and then brought under a single umbrella by the MNCs. That is how the interlinking happens across the countries. In the same way, an example which we can see where an international company in collaboration with the local national company has achieved a huge success, like Ford, which has 26 countries in its market area. India's Mahindra and Mahindra jointly started to produce jeeps and cars with the initial investment of 1700 crores, and then by 2004 they are able to produce 27,000 cars, out of which 24,000 cars are sold worldwide in the countries like South America, Mexico and Brazil. So that's how the local talent of the people has been utilized by the MNCs to produce a globally renowned items at very less cost. So the main production of MNCs target is to make the production at as less as possible and spread the market to a larger level and earn huge profits. Now, foreign trade and integration of markets. How does a foreign trade integrate the different markets? The policy of getting foreign trade is different, and how can it integrate two different markets? Is it possible to integrate two different markets? Now, in this we shall discuss how the foreign trade can integrate two different markets. Is it possible to get two different markets into connection or collaboration or in competition? How is it possible? That's what we'll try to find out from this discussion. The trade routes. We all know that India had trade relations prior to India got its independence way back from the ancient period. Indian products are exported to Great Babylon and all the corners of the Western Europe, where we have historical evidences that Indian pottery has been sold across. Indian silk has been sold through Persia to the other countries of Europe. So it is famously known as Silk Route. Indian trade route is famously known as Silk Route. So Indian Silk Route reveals for us the fact that India had contacts with the countries of West Europe, East Asia and South of Asia also. So India did not have a new concept of having foreign relations with other countries or having trade relations with other countries. But with the arrival of the Britishers, the East India Company, the relations between India and the other countries have got transformed into a new genre. Why means, earlier Indian people used to trade with the people of the West, whereas after the East India Company has come, they have changed India into a colony and forced India to cultivate whatever that is required for them, that has to be produced for them. Not on what is available in India, but what they need in their country, that has been forced by the Indians to produce in India. So in this process, the foreign trade had started to establish in India. Indian products are being carried away wave long and then sailed across the world. So what is a foreign trade? What are the benefits that you get with foreign trade? Foreign trade gives us a large benefit of our product getting an international market. The local product of India may be restricted only with the Indian domestic market, within the state, within the village, within the region or within South India. But now that product will have an approach or appeal to the consumers of the entire Asia, to the consumers of entire Europe, to the consumers of the entire world on a larger scale. So the foreign trade will provide opportunity for us to have global interaction of the product. Once the number of consumers will increase for our product, automatically the demand of the product would increase, cost of the product would increase, and the income will also automatically raise up. So this is the largest advantage of foreign trade. And in the similar way, we also have competition from two different countries also. For example, you have competition for whatever we need. In India, you have a producer who produces a fine quality of silk. In China, you have a producer who produces fine quality of silk. So when Indian product is brought into the international market, in the similar manner, the foreign product is also be brought into the international market. So Indian product and the foreign product will be in competition with each other. So Indian product was having only Indian domestic market, but China product was having only China's domestic market. But because of foreign trade, India product and China product have reached to international market, wherein both are in competition with each other directly. So the consumers will get more wide opportunities for them to choose from that one. Once they get more wide opportunities to choose, automatically they get the competition. They start to compare the products. They start to compare the prices of the products. So all these things will bring an international competition. Foreign trade will get international market. At the same time, it brings you in competition with the different countries' producers. Example, China toys in India. We all know that China toys are the cheapest available toys, and also with variety of toys are available from China. In the Indian shops, from the past decade, 80 to 95% of the Indian toys are being replaced by the China toys, because in competition with the China toys, the Indian toys are costly and the market was very less. The China toys are available at very less cost and many varieties. So they are attractive for the children, and automatically the product of the China toys have increased their market in India. It has brought for them global market, and it came in competition with the Indian products. So where Indian products would not have stiff competition to them, so China products were getting more market in India. In the same way, foreign trade is in this way connects two different markets and integrates the markets of different countries. It is actually not connecting them directly, but it brings a venue where both the products which are internationally valid will be in competition, will be under scrutiny by the consumer who is consuming them, because in front of him we have two varied opportunities or options from which he can choose. While he is choosing, he would definitely compare the cost, compare the quality. So these two is all happening because the foreign trade which integrates the markets and bring them together at a particular point, though they are originated at different countries, but final destination of competition happens at a foreign trade venue, that is in the international market. Now moving on to understand what is globalization. We have been discussing from the topic entrance itself what is globalization. The fundamental question, what is globalization? We have discussed about the MNCs. The MNC's prime motto is to identify the places from where the actual production cost can be reduced, actual availability of the skilled and the unskilled labor at very less cost, the manufacturing production available at very less cost, the government policies fetching for us at very less cost. So an MNC is a company which looks at the most viable opportunities for the company's development in terms of economy and to get available at the cheapest possible rate, raw materials at the cheapest possible rate or economy, skilled labor at the cheapest level of expenditure, production manufacturing at the lowest level. So the raw material, the skilled people, the production manufacturers, the customer support services, marketing, all these cannot be brought up under a single umbrella, because some skilled people are located, employment is in US, while the manufacturers at very less cost are in China. While coming to the customer support, we have in India. While moving on to get the fixation of the parts or assembling of the skilled parts and all in the Eastern European countries like Germany and all these countries, where they are at different corners of the world. The MNC would try to establish their factories or units at different corners of the world to get the work done at the least possible cost. This establishing of an interlink between different countries via through trade or through interconnectedness or through financial flow or through products flow is known as globalization. So globalization is nothing but it is a process which integrates the interconnectedness between different countries. It can be one country to another country, one country to many countries brought in integration with one country. Whatever it is, the countries do not get interacted directly. The government of USA, the government of China, the government of India, the government of Germany would not interact directly. The company called X, which is an MNC, would establish its offices in US, in India, in China, and in Germany. Well, this all countries' products what they need would be brought into interconnectedness. That is how the countries are brought into connection. It is not an official connection what we talk of diplomatic relations. We are not stressing on the diplomatic relations or the foreign relations of any two countries. We are actually talking of the private companies which establish their factories at different parts of the world and interlink the output products of all the outstation product factory outlets and finally get the final product output. So the private MNCs are playing a very vital role in the spread of globalization. So globalization is a process of rapid integration between two countries or many countries. Globalization has been brought widely spread by the MNCs because the MNCs main motto is to make the things available at less and the less cost. So they try to establish their offices wherever there is a possibility or a chance to get the products at very less cost. Now earlier, some decades ago also, we had the interactions between the people, but those interactions are different from this globalization. People used to travel from one country to another country in search of better opportunities, in search of betterment of their life standards, in search of earning better incomes for their life. But now people are not moving so rapidly as it has done in the previous decades. Now, due to various restrictions, the companies are moving across the world and establishing their units, and then they are integrating the output products through globalization. That is globalization. So to conclude, globalization is a system of process through which the different countries are brought together in interlinking, not via government connections, through informal connections by the private companies, so-called MNCs. Now, the factors which are contributing for the growth of globalization, the factors which have supported on a very large scale to the expansion of globalization, which brought the different countries together of the same wavelength. What are the factors? The first factor is technology. We have seen the growth of technology in a very rapid range from the past 20 years, 2 decades. If you look at the transport technology, the transportation earlier, we know that it was very difficult to travel very long distances. If you want to carry heavy loads, it is very risky and unsafe. But today, you can travel to very long distances in a short span of time, and also you can take large and bulk goods with a very less amount of cost to very far distances. So the technology in relation to transport has brought 3 different means of transport: the roadways, the railways, the waterways, and also the airways. The road and rail come under the category of landways, whereas water comes under the category of shipping, comes under waterways, whereas airplanes come under the transport of airways. So the transportation has increased rapidly. Landways, nowadays you can travel via land or by train fastest way. You can take an example of the metro trains, the metro rails, magnetic trains, which are traveling at very high speed, which are in almost all the western countries. When it comes to waterways, through waterways you can travel from any corner to any corner of the world at very less cost and you can take bulk amounts along with you. Loads. Almost all the countries carry or import or export their oils, their large goods, products, everything through the waterways. Finally, moving on to airways. If you need to visit some place, particularly in a very short span of time, you can approach through these ways, through airways. So, transportation actually did not bring any place together. Transportation made the people to travel from one place to another place with the convenient levels. That has added on for great advantage when it comes to transport. And the same technology has also improved in information technology, information and communication. Earlier, the communications were in the olden days sent by letters, and later it was being sent by the postal system. Today, you can send messages directly by the mobile phones or via emails. Email can be sent to any person in any corner of the world. Either you can send text mail or voice mail at the negotiable cost, which means you can sit in one room and you can communicate with any person whom you would like to interact in any corner of the world. This rapid change has also made possible to people to interact very fast and to come to conclusions through discussions. We have today direct access of talking to each other via sitting at one room through the internet. So this also brought a very rapid change in the communication system from the earlier days to the present modern days. And next, moving on to understand the third important factor and very important factor, that is liberalization. What is liberalization? Liberalize, give freedom. What freedom has to be given? For whom the freedom has to be given? On what basis the freedom has to be given? Before understanding the actual meaning of the word liberalization, let us take an example of the China toys. India, prior to 1990s, used to conduct or have taxes on the external imports what we are getting. So when we are importing the external taxes from 1950s, 1960s, we used to have the serious tax imports that has to be paid by the people those who are importing them. Only a few like material, machines, fertilizers and petroleum are the few products which are being allowed to import from the other countries without much taxation. The other products are to be brought with the tax paid by them. So when you are bringing the product from the other country to our country, and if you are paying tax, that will automatically reflect on the increase of the cost of the product what you are getting. So in the same way, if China products are brought through from China to India, if they are brought under the category of tax, that would definitely be a trade barrier for India and China. Because if you put tax on the China toys, definitely the cost of the China toys will increase. When the cost of the China toys is increasing, automatically it would be equating with the Indian toys cost. Then nobody would prefer to take China toys because the same cost they can available and get from the Indian toys. So this is being a trade barrier which blocks off the China products coming into India products. So the tax is considered as a trade barrier. So having no tax, giving reduction of taxation and removal of restrictions or barriers like taxes by the government is known as liberalization. Liberal means allowing freely the trade without having any external taxes being levied on the particular products which are being imported by our country from the other countries is called liberalization. The removal of all the external trade factors, especially the taxes, which makes the burden for the people those who are importing the product into the India, which automatically results in the increase of the cost of the product, that is called liberalization. So in literally terms, liberalization helps to get the products from the foreign countries to our country. Actually, from 1950s to 1960s, India did not allow any kind of liberalization policy. Indian government did not approach or did not practice any liberalization policies prior to this. Only in 1991, when India was severely facing the economic crisis, Indian government decided to go with the guidelines of the World Bank and brought the liberalization steps. Prior to this, except the fertilizers, machinery and petroleum, the other products all were coming under the category of taxpayers. So once you need to import anything, you need to pay huge tax. But after 1991, the taxation has been reduced and the tax barriers have been removed, so that the liberalization policy has been adopted by the Indian government. This adoption of the policy of the Indian government of reduction of taxes, removal of the taxes on the imports is known as liberalization. So the removal of barriers or restrictions by the government is known as liberalization. World Trade Organization, WTO. The WTO stands for World Trade Organization. This World Trade Organization is a main organization which determines or formulates the actual policies that are required to have trade. Let us see what it has quoted in regards to the tax. It said that the barriers like tax are very harmful for having trade relations. They should be free from any kind of barriers. World Trade Organization has strictly warned all the countries in the world through a conventional meet, requesting them to remove all the trade barriers. And they also want free and fair trade happening in all countries across the world. So the main motto of World Trade Organization is that there should be no barriers, and these barriers will definitely be harmful in the international trade. Now, the World Trade Organization also has brought the Liberalization International Conference. Through this liberalization of international trade, it actually wants to have all the developed countries as well as the developing countries to remove the barriers which are obstructing the trade between the developed countries and the developing countries. The fact is that nearly 150 countries have agreed for the rules and the norms which are laid by the WTO, which clearly states that barriers or taxes are harmful and there should not be any kind of taxes or any kind of supports which are making the products costly and becoming threat to the other parts of the world. But in actual practice, though many developing countries have accepted this one, some of the developed countries have retained their barriers. The retained trade barriers are example, let us take United States. The United States, the number of people dependent on agriculture are 0.5%, which is very minute percent, and their contribution to GDP is just 1%. The contribution for the people, those who are engaged in agriculture, are 0.5%, and they contribute to the country's GDP is 1%. But the government of United States supports many of the farmers with a huge and massive sum of amount, and also encourages them to export the surplus product. So here the government is giving more benefits to the farmers and also encouraging them to export the surplus product to the other countries. When this surplus product is exported to the other countries where the product, maybe let us take it is rice. Rice is very costly in India. The fine quality of rice is very costly in India. But in US it is extra, so they are selling it to Indian market. The rice cost, what they are selling in competition to the local product, would definitely be at very less cost because it is surplus for them. Here it is in demand. So the local product loses its value, whereas they are not only spoiling their economy but also trying to spoil the other country's economy. So that is the reason why many developing countries started to raise a question against the attitude of the developed countries questioning that you have asked our governments to stop helping our farmers, stop financing our farmers, stop encouraging our farmers, and now what is the work that you are doing? You are actually following the same things what you asked us to stop, and you are continuing the policies what you asked us to stop. So in return you are following the opposite direction while you are forcing us to follow on the straight line. When this is happening, they also raise the questions asking that, is this free and fair trade what you expected from us? So there are still many versions of World Trade Organizations liberalizing international trade. Many of the countries have eased the trade barriers, but still some of the developed countries could not take a call on this one. They are still maintaining their trade barriers and posing a threat to the developing countries. Let us now discuss about the impact of globalization in India. There are two words in this: the impact of globalization in India on India. In India means in terms of the professionals who are working, in terms of the workers, in terms of the producers. On India means on the budget of India, on the GDP of India, on the companies of India, on the people who are associated with the globalization aspects. Now moving on to the first one, the impact of globalization in India. What is globalization? We have discussed. Globalization is nothing but integrating two or many countries through a rapid process called globalization. How this integration between two countries affected the Indian people. The people, when it comes to the point of view of producers, the people those are producing, those people have got a great choice. For example, I want to buy something. When I go to a mall which is established because of MNCs, then I find various varieties of the furniture items which are available for me at very low cost with a good quality, which means from my point of view as a consumer, I would be more benefited to get greater choice. I would get good quality of the product at very low cost, and I also enjoy the high standard of living at the comfort level of pricing. So from the producer's point of view, the people those who are producing these products also got many benefits because they are coming in competition with the international companies. Their products also were sold across the world, so they also got good income for their products. They are sold at good prices. So from the consumer point of view, from the producer's point of view, they have great choice, better quality, low cost, and also resulting in high standard of living with the luxurious comforts at the affordable cost. But the version when it comes to workers' side is different. The workers are facing lot of problems. What are the problems that are faced by the workers? The MNCs have brought huge amounts as investments in the past 15 years. They have brought the investments, they have established new factories, new industries, new banks, IT sector, hospitals, hostels, then coming to the hotel industries. All these are the service oriented sectors which not only brought huge investment but also brought new opportunities for us. When these new opportunities are brought, this gave new jobs for the people. Then the fundamental question arises, how can the workers be unhappy when there are new jobs available for them? The number of people actually working in the agricultural sector and the factory sector are being pushed out, and they were brought into the categories of service sector. And this service sector is not secure. They are at the will of the companies. The companies, when they were established in India, the governments have reduced the cost of the lands by declaring them as a special economic zone areas and sold for the companies at very less cost. and also did not put any serious restrictions which are to be maintained in the benefit of the workers. So, to attract the foreign companies towards our country, the governments have dropped some of the strict measures in regards to workers' maintenance. That's why the workers, though they got new opportunities, they are not safe and secured. They also come under the category of unorganized sector, though they may be working in an MNC because they may be fired at any point of time. And next, many local companies who have supplied the raw material for the MNCs have also prospered, because earlier the local companies used to struggle to find the consumers, but once they tie up with any of the national companies and the international companies, they would not get any kind of problem to get a consumer, because they will always have a renowned consumers and their product would not be at delay. They could be easily dispatching them and they will get regular payments for them. That's how the local companies have prospered a lot. And also benefit from competition. How can we get benefit from competition? We can achieve benefit from competition because when the small companies are competing with the large companies either would try to make friendship with the local company or would merge the local company into their company. Like this, many of the Indian companies have got associated with the international companies. So the international company would try to grab the market of the local company in the local country, whereas this local company will get international market by getting associated with the international company. So it is a profit for both the companies and the journey is vice versa. So in this way, the local companies like Tata's, the Ranbaxy, Heritage Foods, all these got associated with the international companies and they got international market as well as the benefit of the international brands. And the call centers which are available at very less cost according to the MNCs at India has given enormous opportunities for the young youth of India who can speak very fluently in English. We can provide the customer service support at very less cost. Also has given a large options of careers for the young youth in India. So in this way, we have various opportunities which are brought to the Indian market by the MNCs. But the actual problem is the government, in the process of attracting the foreign companies to India, the MNCs to establish their centers in India, they have subsided some of the benefits which the Indian workers would actually get from the foreign companies. Indian government sold the land at very less cost by declaring those lands as special economic zone lands, and also brought workers at very less cost available to them, and did not put any restrictions on what would be the pay scales of the workers, what are the facilities that has to be assured by the companies to their employers, to the employees. So this has seriously brought down the morale of the workers, and also it is at the will and the interest of the company to hire the workers, to remove the workers. So that's why, though the workers are employed in a safe and secured service sector, but still they are in the unorganized sector itself, because they are not getting any benefits which they were actually getting in the organized sector. So though they are employed in the service sector, but they still are in the unorganized sector. So globalization has been a largest impact on India, producers as well as the workers. Now let us try to finalize or conclude how can globalization be bringing a fair globalization. First of all, what is a fair globalization? Which can be done in a clear manner without doing any harm to any of them is called fairness. That fairness have to be developed in regards to globalization concept. That's what is called as fair globalization. Now let us see the facts step by step. Those who have high education, those who are skilled people, those who have wealth have benefited a large with the best opportunities coming on their way because of globalization. Globalization has given a chance to the skilled people, the educated people, the talented people to reach their heights of success. We have Satya Nadella, an example, a well-educated person, a highly skilled person, and a wealthy family person taking over as the CEO of Microsoft. He hails from India. So, the opportunities are at the steps or reachable to the talented people. That's how the first opportunities proved to be the best opportunities because of globalization. The next, is the globalization fair enough? Why only one Satya is able to get the opportunity? Why not all the other people across the world? Why only one person from India is able to get the opportunity? Today we have 206 countries. Why not the others are not able to get? Because the opportunities are not so fair enough and allowing all the people in all corners of the world to get the benefits of this globalization. That is the hidden side of globalization. The third one is the rich corporate people or only the wealthy people who are powerful, who can dominate the government policies only, can do or can make rules for the globalization. Why not the common man? Why not the government take steps to provide the betterment of the people or the workers because of globalization? The government can do, because ultimately government is elected to serve the common people, not to serve the corporate houses or to the wealthy rich person. It is the mass who make the government. So government can take the steps like ensuring the labor laws, ensuring that the labor laws are being implemented strictly, firmly by all the MNCs, so that any worker who is employed under the MNC would not feel that he is insecure, would not feel that he is in the namesake organized sector but actually in the unorganized sector. This can be taken by the government. Second step, they can also support the small producers until they become competitive and strong enough to compete with the other strong companies. Government can provide some aid, some assistance, some benefits for them. Trade barriers, if necessary, the government has to negotiate with the World Trade Organization and try to bring some trade barriers and put the restriction to save the local companies without falling in competition with the international companies. And they also should align with the other developing countries and to raise their action of voice against the developed countries who are having dual stand, who say something, who follow something. So government can ensure labor laws. Government has to support the small workers or the small producers who are not so strong enough to compete. Then government has to put trade barriers if necessary after negotiating with the World Trade Organization, and also should raise their slogans of voice and try to get benefit by joining with the developing countries and questioning the attitude of the developed countries. So on a very large scale of discussion, it has been proved that from the past a decade that people can play an important role in struggling for fair globalization. It's not fair to say that only one country is getting more benefits from globalization. It has to be fair enough that all the countries, all the workers, everybody should share the benefits of globalization. Then only globalization can be called as fair globalization. In this unit, we have discussed how the MNCs play a vital role in the spread of globalization, how the MNCs have brought the intermingling of the markets, how they have brought two products, two markets in competition with each other, and then we have discussed how the improvement of technology in regards to transport, in regards to communication, have added on for the process of globalization. And finally, we also discussed what are the problems because of globalization, like how the trade barriers are being removed with the conference held by World Trade Organization, but still some of the developed countries are maintaining the trade barriers to safeguard their own local companies' interest. That has to be stopped. And the problems which are faced by the workers, no safety, no security, no ensured payment for them, they are still coming under the category of unorganized sector, though they are working in the service sector. So all these aspects have to be addressed clearly to have a fair globalization. Only when we get the fair globalization, the benefits of globalization can be shared equally by the producers, by the consumers, and also by the workers and the employers who are employed in this one. So that's what the theme. To sum up, globalization is necessary of the modern period, but the fair globalization only can fetch the benefits and can be shared to all the people who are participants of globalization, like the producers, consumers, workers, and the employers.
If you like this video, please give a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel to get more videos on CBSE syllabus.